Welcome back to Pokemon episode summaries. Today, I'll be doing episode 292, Winner by a Nose Pass. The episode begins with Ash training his Pikachu to master Iron Tail by ordering it to break some nearby huge rocks. And Pikachu was able to do so, with May, Brock, and Max impressed as they watched from the table that was just outside of the hotel that Ash and the gang were staying at. Having stayed there the previous night as well, because today was the day of Ash's gym battle now, against Roxanne. As Ash and Pikachu cheered and jumped up in happiness at having the rock finally destroyed, with Ash remarking that it seemed like Iron Tail was finally mastered, May commented that the training that Ash was doing actually did seem to be successful after all. With Brock and Max agreeing, stating that so long as Ash kept training, he would be able to have Pikachu use Iron Tail seamlessly. Ash, despite being confident, knew that he would have to be absolutely sure Iron Tail was at its full power for his upcoming gym battle, so he told Pikachu to practice breaking some rocks again. Though unfortunately, this time, the Iron Tail failed, as Pikachu instead just ended up injuring its tail on a rock, causing Ash to sigh in disappointment, realizing that he still had quite a bit more work to do. Admitting this to May, Brock, and Max, stating that Iron Tail was far from perfect, as he sat down to join them for breakfast at the table. As Pikachu ate some Pokemon food, while Ash and the gang chowed down on some standard coffee and some breakfast sandwiches, Brock tried to console Ash, stating that he was sure Pikachu would get the hang of Iron Tail sooner or later, and stated that Ash should just concentrate on enduring Roxanne's Geodude, still impressed by it from yesterday, and warning Ash that the Geodude seemed very high level and very experienced, stating that even if Pikachu was able to master Iron Tail, it probably wouldn't even be enough to take out Geodude, despite it being a rock type. Ash and Brock then proceeded to try and come up with something to counter Roxanne's Geodude, as Max remembered that May was going to be battling in the gym as well, of course, and asked her what her strategy was, and if she planned on doing any training at all, like Ash had. May just responded by eating some breakfast sandwich, trying to comfort herself from her nervousness, as she admitted that she wouldn't be battling Roxanne in the gym. She was not participating in gym battles. Ash, Brock, and Max were all in complete shock, and they tried to explain that as a Pokemon trainer, especially a new one, she should likely get a lot of experience by challenging gyms. However, May just admitted that she first started her journey as an excuse to travel, and didn't even really like Pokemon when she began. And she thought that gym battles would perhaps make her interested in Pokemon, but she soon found out that her true calling was Pokemon contests after seeing Janet perform with her Beautyfly. Also adding that throughout her journey with Ash and the gang so far, she had realized that she was more into the overall cuteness of Pokemon and how good they looked and their moves and shit than actually battling them, so she thought contests were perfect for her. As she then thanked Ash and Brock for allowing her to accompany them on the journey and actually grow an appreciation for Pokemon at all, because it wouldn't have been possible for her to go from not liking Pokemon whatsoever to suddenly appreciating them if it wasn't for Ash and Brock and seeing how they acted around them. Max, being way more interested in battles himself, tried to convince May to go back to battling gyms. However, she shut Max up, as May basically said that she'd rather see Torchic shine beautifully wearing a ribbon after winning a contest than have it risk being beat up in a battle, as she just knew that she wasn't super cut out for battling. Ash in particular knew how much it would suck to be stuck with a dream that you didn't care about whatsoever, so he was very supportive with May's goal of becoming a Pokemon coordinator, as was Brock, as they admitted that it was a great goal for her, leading May to thank them and plead Max to think the same way, although Max was still bent out of shape a little bit, arguing that a coordinator could be too tough a job for May, trying to convince her to go to battling still, but May merely said that she would do her best no matter what, and insinuated that she could probably do better if Max cheered for her while she participated in the contest. This led Max to finally accept May's goal as well, as he, Brock, and Ash promised to do everything they could to help May in her contest goals, while May promised the same for Ash's gym battles. Meanwhile, as for Team Rocket, they were sitting in a playground somewhere in Rustboro City, and were still bent out of shape regarding their defeat last episode. James was looking through a guidebook of Rustboro to see if there was anything worthwhile to steal in Rustboro, aside from Pokemon obviously, when he came across a page describing the Rustboro City gym leader, and he saw a picture of Roxanne, remarking to Jessie and Meowth that the teacher that had defeated them with her Geodude yesterday was the gym leader. While James was initially still with shock, Jessie and Meowth, on the other hand, got extremely excited, suggesting that they disguise themselves and steal all of Roxanne's Pokemon, so that they could give them to Giovanni, since he would likely be very happy to have a trainer as strong as a gym leader's Pokemon. However, James quickly cut Meowth and Jessie off, complaining how Team Rocket never seemed to be able to successfully steal any Pokemon, even with Max, so they definitely wouldn't be able to steal any Pokemon without Max, which they wouldn't be able to build since they no longer had any money left. So, James suggested that if they really wanted to steal Roxanne's Pokemon, then they should get to work, going to one of their least favorite grunt jobs as construction workers to make some money for a mech first. Jessie and Meowth were disappointed by this, as they really didn't want to do any work, but they knew James was right, and were excited by the prospect of getting a new mech. So they changed into their construction uniforms, as did James, and they prepared to start digging a place in the playground for so that a new play structure could be added for some reason. However, James soon realized a new plan, which he claimed was the perfect way to get revenge on Roxanne for beating their asses last episode: digging a tunnel, confusing Jessie and Meowth, as Wobbuffet forcibly popped out of his Pokeball, forcing Jessie to recall it. Meanwhile, back with Ash and the gang, they had just arrived outside of the Rustboro gym. Ash prepared himself mentally, and he and his friends went inside to see a field made entirely out of rocks, surprising May and Max, as they had assumed for a bit that most gyms were like their father's gym, which was basically just, a standard-ass gym, not a fucking rock field. Ash then noticed several workers at the gym sweeping the rock field, seemingly preparing it for the upcoming gym battle. Ash then goes up to one of the workers and tells him that he was here for his gym battle with Roxanne, leading the worker to recognize Ash based on Roxanne's description of him and call out for Roxanne to alert her to the challenge. She quickly jumped down from the stands where she was watching the cleaning from and instantly greeted Ash and the gang, stating how she was honored that Ash and May would be having their first own gym battle in Rustboro City of all places, asking if May or Ash would go first, confirming she was prepared for both of them. One right after the other. May got a little nervous at this, as she stated that she had something to confess to Roxanne, so her and Roxanne sat back in the stands, with Roxanne expecting something relatively serious. However, May simply clarified that she wasn't going to be challenging Roxanne, or any gyms for that matter, because she wanted to be a coordinator instead. Roxanne understood with no difficulty, congratulating May on her new goal, stating that she was proud of her for realizing what it was, stating that she shouldn't feel any pressure to challenge gyms, and should choose how she wanted to interact with her Pokemon and bond with them, whether that was battling or contests. The field workers then came up to Roxanne and informed her that the field was now fully ready for the upcoming battle. Roxanne thanked them for their help and informed Ash and the gang that the field workers at her gym were actually some of her old students, now working as interns at the gym. Roxanne then made sure that Ash was at least still willing to battle her, and Ash of course still was. So Roxanne ordered one of her former students to be the referee, and both Roxanne and Ash took their places on the battlefield. However, before the battle could begin, the referee then told Roxanne that the two reporters she had called for had just arrived and were ready to start filming, leading Roxanne to admit to Ash that she was letting some reporters film the match for the Pokémon news, although only under the condition that Roxanne would get to keep a copy of the footage that she could keep in her classroom and show to her students as battle study footage, which the reporters obviously agreed to. Of course, Roxanne asked Ash for permission if he was okay being filmed, and Ash explained that it was fine, stating that he was excited to be filmed as it motivated him to try extra hard, since he knew that potentially the whole fucking Pokemon world could be watching this battle. Just then, May, Brock, and Max took their place in the stands to watch the battle, with Max extremely excited, even more so than May and Brock, as he admitted that he couldn't wait, with Brock understanding why, saying that gym battles were a lot of fun to watch. However, Max was particularly excited because this was the first gym battle he would ever be allowed to watch, and this was also May's first gym battle that she'd be allowed to watch either. Brock was confused by this, knowing that their father Norman was a gym leader, so he figured they would have watched all of his gym battles, but Max clarifies that he and May were never allowed to watch Norman battle, because Norman always feared that they would end up doing something to distract his challengers and prevent them from battling at their A-game. The battle then began with the referee declaring that the rules would be a 2-on-2 gym battle with no time limit, the standard rules, and the battle then officially began as Roxanne sent out her Geodude first. May decided to look up Geodude in her Pokedex and commented that it looked like it was pretty fucking strong, with Max agreeing. However, Ash had a strategy to counter Geodude specifically, not wanting to rely solely on Pikachu's Iron Tail, as he sent out his Trico since he knew that grass types were good against rock types. As Trico prepared for battle, putting its twig in its mouth, Max commended Ash on picking the best Pokemon for the battle because of Trico's type advantage, but Brock warned Max that type matchups weren't everything, since, for one, Trico didn't have that much battle experience compared to Roxanne's Geodude, and two, Trico didn't even know any grass moves, so even if it could resist rock-type attacks, it couldn't really do heavy damage to Geodude. May was shocked upon learning that type matchups weren't everything, and that experience played a huge part. Because even though she knew experience was important, she thought that type matchups were naively your most important trait. The referee then officially declared that the match should begin, as Trico first went in for a quick attack, but Geodude moved in before the quick attack could make contact, pushing back against Trico with his strong fist, rendering the quick attack useless. Trico and Geodude then began to push each other back, as Roxanne commented that her Geodude's physical attacks were so strong that she wouldn't have to rely on its rock-type moves, so that would basically disable her disadvantage. Max was still kind of adamant that Trico could win, even though it didn't know any grass-type attacks, and told Ash not to give up, but unfortunately, Roxanne then had Geodude use Mega Punch, which sent Trico flying backwards. However, Trico was able to recover from the Mega Punch, and while it was still flying in the air, Ash told it to use that to its advantage, stating that it should use its pound attack while being up in the air. Like, you remember how it practiced it when it was trying to battle against the Scyther, by like smashing from high up against rocks and shit? Yeah, Ash basically wanted it to do that, but on Geodude, so Trico obliged, as it began crashing down, trying to hit Geodude with its tail. However, Roxanne told Geodude to dodge and use a rock tomb, deciding to use a rock attack after all. However, before Geodude could do this, the attack hit Geodude, knocking it back and injuring it quite a bit, also causing a huge dust cloud because of the collision. When the dust cleared, Brock, May, and Max were confused to see that Geodude was buried under a pile of rocks, but Max came to the conclusion that Trico using Pound on Geodude right as it unleashed the Rock Tomb must have caused the Rock Tomb to be sent right back at Geodude. And realizing that Ash had planned this, were in complete amazement at Ash's strategy. However, Geodude was able to punch its way out from underneath the rocks and appeared relatively unharmed, leading Roxanne to smirk cunningly, amazed at her Geodude's resilience, and she commanded it to attack once again, going for a rollout. Trico tried its best to dodge the rollout, but Geodude quickly changed course, going up into the air where Trico had jumped to dodge, and it soon got out of rollout formation and instead struck Trico straight in the head with a Mega Punch, severely wounding Trico as he went flying through the air and crashed onto the ground. Ash cheered Trico on, telling it to do its best, as he asked if Trico was still able to battle, and Trico, determined as fuck, managed to stand back up, ready to win. However, it could only stand up for a few seconds before falling down again from pure exhaustion, not being able to help itself, forcing the referee to declare Geodude the winner, making the score 1-0. Ash quickly picked up Trico and thanked it for a job well done despite the loss, as he then recalled it and chose to send in Pikachu as his second and final Pokemon. The cameramen were so shocked that they had to put down their cameras for a second, and Roxanne and her students, as well as the referee, were immensely shocked as well, with Roxanne reminding Ash that using Pikachu wasn't a good idea since she used rock types, and electric types were bad against rock types. Yeah, you know it. But Ash simply became more motivated to use Pikachu upon hearing everyone's doubts towards it, as he told Pikachu to use its absolutely strongest Thunderbolt, which engulfed the room with a bright light. When the light faded, Max initially thought that nothing had changed, as did Roxanne, Brock, and May, as Max suggested that Ash may have just been trying to show off a bright Thunderbolt to try and intimidate Roxanne. However, everyone soon realized what Ash had done. He had used the Thunderbolt, not on Geodude, but on the field itself, to destroy most of the rocks. Meanwhile, as for Team Rocket, they had begun digging a tunnel, just as James had suggested, although Meowth was getting very tired of digging and informed James that he was quitting, stating he was way too fucking exhausted. However, James simply told Meowth that he couldn't quit, because that would interfere with James's plan that would come to fruition once this tunnel was dug. Jessie simply retorted that she would much rather be doing some regular construction work or grunt work, because at least she would be getting paid so that they could actually afford a new machine. James, however, shot back that he had come to the realization that even if they were able to capture Roxanne's Pokemon with a machine, the machine would cost so much that they would probably end up losing out on most of their profits for whatever they got for giving Geodude to Giovanni. Jessie claimed that she'd much rather be in debt than have to dig a tunnel, but James just responded by calling her lazy, and reminded her how much they spent on the Wurmple mech despite it now being utterly destroyed, assuring Jessie that his plan would not put Team Rocket into debt with a destroyed machine. Knowing that James likely wanted to explain his plan to somebody, Jessie and Meowth gave in as they asked what his plan was, leading James to reveal that he remembered that Ash was going to be battling Roxanne and was probably battling her right now, so he figured that they could just dig a tunnel to right underneath the Rustboro gym, and then come up to the gym and steal not only Roxanne's Geodude, but also Ash's Pikachu, killing two birds with one stone. James then began to brag about how awesome his plan was, explaining that Team Rocket would easily be able to retreat down the tunnel as well, and they wouldn't have to waste any money on a goddamn machine, or risk the machine getting blown up. James' overconfidence, though, just caused Jessie and Meowth to sigh in annoyance, and they were even more annoyed as Wobbuffet then forcibly popped out of the Pokeball. Meanwhile, back during the battle, Max was wondering how Pikachu could do a better job against Geodude than Trico was, with Brock suggesting that Ash and Pikachu were just like that, bro. I'm serious, that's basically what he said. He was just like, oh, Ash always finds a way, man. However, Roxanne overheard Max, Brock, and May talking in the audience, and reminded them that although the stones were primarily destroyed in the field, Pikachu still hadn't done much actual damage to Geodude, and with all the rocks being destroyed, this actually allowed Geodude to move around easier and not worry about crashing into the rocks if it fell down. And also explained that Ash destroying the rocks on the field actually just allowed Geodude to use Rock Throw easier, because now Ash had crumbled up the rocks into very small pieces, which made them easier for Geodude to throw. So, to demonstrate this, Roxanne had Geodude use Rock Throw. Fortunately for Pikachu, though, it was able to use Quick Attack to dodge all the incoming rocks, although it ended up running close to Geodude in the process, allowing Geodude to knock Pikachu back with a Mega Punch. May, Brock, and Max then panicked as they saw that Pikachu was down, so it couldn't defend itself from Geodude's incoming rollout, making Brock, Max, and May wonder how even Ash was going to get out of this one, when he then managed to get Pikachu to get up, just as Geodude happened to get wedged into the softer battlefield, now that there was no rocks for Geodude to go onto. So now with Geodude stuck and unable to do anything, Ash told Pikachu to take the opportunity to get as close as possible to do a close-range attack, so Pikachu used Quick Attack, getting right up to Geodude's face, as it then used a massive Thunderbolt to knock Geodude out, sending it flying back. As the referee then declared the score was 1-1, with Pikachu having won this battle, so now Roxanne was down to her last Pokemon as well. Ash and the gang then cheered for Ash's first victory, as Roxanne recalled her Geodude and commended Ash, admitting that he had talent, since he was able to persevere despite the type disadvantage he was at, and able to feint Geodude with simply just an electric attack, admitting that had never been done before to her Geodude. However, Roxanne remained confident, as she claimed that Ash would not get past her second Pokemon, as she then threw a nose pass. Ash had never seen this Hoenn Pokemon before, so he used his Pokedex on it to learn more about it, and was about to command Pikachu to attack, but Brock warned Ash that Pikachu was extremely worn out from its battle against Geodude, making him, May, and Max extremely worried about Pikachu's condition, and if it would be able to fight still. Ash asked Pikachu if it was okay though, and Pikachu gave a look of determination, insinuating that despite its exhaustion, it still wanted to win this battle with Ash. So, Ash told it to do as it had trained and use Iron Tail. Thankfully, despite Iron Tail being hit or miss, this time Pikachu's tail did in fact begin to glow, and it made contact with Nosepass, hitting it and injuring it quite a bit. Roxanne smiled, saying she was impressed, and admitting that she should have known Ash would have prepared his Pikachu with an attack that was good against rock types. However, Roxanne then ordered her Nosepass to go in for tackle. Ash, unfortunately, told Pikachu to use another Iron Tail, expecting the same result. The hit-or-miss nature of the move came back, as this time the attack failed, and Pikachu's tail hit the Nosepass with no effect, and it just bounced off, only hurting Pikachu's tail instead of Nosepass, with Pikachu's tail only taking even more damage because of Nosepass's tackle. Max was disappointed that Ash truly had failed to master the Iron Tail, as Roxanne immediately took back how impressed she was with the Iron Tail, stating that Ash and Pikachu were clearly inexperienced with it, so her fear regarding the attack was gone, as she told Nosepass to use a Rock Tomb, which caused rocks to close in around Pikachu, threatening to trap it. Pikachu wasn't trapped for long though, as it simply used Thunderbolt to break all the rocks around it, freeing it. Unfortunately, though, despite Pikachu being free, this Thunderbolt took a lot out of it, as now it was really worn out, and Ash got very worried, while Roxanne got excited, thinking victory was imminent. Meanwhile, back with Team Rocket, they had managed to dig a tunnel directly under the gym, making James excited, as he knew Team Rocket wasn't very far from capturing both Pikachu and Geodude. However, right as James was about to dig up into the gym, he realized that his shovel couldn't get past the hard rock of the gym, and Meowth questioned how James planned to get through, with James having no answer. So Team Rocket was forced to just sit there and wonder as the match continued, with Nosepass using Sandstorm, impairing everyone's vision. Not just blinding Ash, Roxanne, May, Brock, and Max, but also Pikachu, to the point where it couldn't see Nosepass. However, even though Nosepass couldn't see either, it was able to find out where Pikachu was, since it had an electromagnetic nose, which was able to be utilized because Pikachu was an electric type. So, Nosepass was able to sneak up on Pikachu and use a tackle on it to knock it down to the ground, and then try to use Stomp on it. However, Pikachu was able to dodge due to Quick Attack. Roxanne then told Nosepass to try a Rock Tomb, but Pikachu was able to dodge with a combination of Agility and Quick Attack, making it even faster. Pikachu then turned Quick Attack into an actual attack as it hit Nosepass, although Brock saw that this only did minor damage, making Brock comment that the battle clearly wasn't going in Ash's favor right now. So Ash was forced to try a different approach, as he told Pikachu to use Quick Attack again to run circles around Nosepass to try and confuse it, although this didn't really work, as Nosepass tried to use Sandstorm to confuse Pikachu so that Pikachu couldn't see anything. But thankfully, while Nosepass was charging up the Sandstorm, Pikachu was able to get off an Iron Tail. Unfortunately though, just like the previous attempt, Iron Tail failed yet again, meaning Pikachu's tail just bounced off a Nosepass, injuring the tail. However, Brock was able to determine a specific reason why the Iron Tail didn't work this time, stating that Pikachu was too worn out from running around, so now it didn't have the time to store up energy for a successful Iron Tail, or the energy to even put into its tail, you know? So, even though Ash had tried to distract the Nosepass so that it could go in for an Iron Tail, the running around had backfired on it, worrying Max and May, as they didn't know what Ash was going to do. Roxanne then sarcastically apologized for having to defeat Ash, admitting that he was pretty good, but just not good enough, as she ordered Nosepass to finish Pikachu off with a Zap Cannon mixed with a Thunder Wave. However, Pikachu was able to dodge out of the way. Unfortunately for Team Rocket, though, they had just finally managed to find a way to dig through the gym floor somehow, and they were hit by the Zap Cannon, sending Team Rocket flying all the way back through their tunnel and outside the gym, right before they could get inside to steal Pikachu and Geodude. Damn, sucks to be them. Meanwhile, back during the actual battle, Ash questioned how Nosepass could possibly learn an electric attack, leading Roxanne to state that Ash wasn't the only one who had kept a surprise attack up his sleeve, referring to the Iron Tail, admitting that having a surprise attack was a very useful strategy, since having more type coverage with moves, aside from types that your Mon actually was obviously very beneficial. Roxanne then pointed out Pikachu's clearly exhausted state, telling Ash that he should just give up, since Pikachu was so exhausted, but Ash refused, pointing out that Pikachu was still raring to go, as Pikachu gave yet another look of determination, surprising Roxanne, leading Ash to remind her that the tougher the battle, the better the challenge was for him and Pikachu, and the more motivated Pikachu was to battle, as was he. Pikachu then went in for an Iron Tail, hoping that it would work this time, as Nosepass anticipated this and prepared to use Zap Cannon again to defend itself. And although Pikachu was hit by the Zap Cannon, this is just what Ash had planned, as he instructed Pikachu to continue taking the attack, and sure enough, the attack actually helped out Pikachu, as it recharged him, since he was so low on electricity. Any extra electricity that hit him apparently recharged him. Kind of bullshit, I know, but regardless, now that Pikachu was electrically charged, he was able to run up to Nosepass and use what was effectively a Thunderbolt on it because of the amount of electricity he had, paralyzing Nosepass. Seeing how the Zap Cannon had actually helped Pikachu, Roxanne changed her strategy and ordered Nosepass to go for a Rock Tomb, but since Nosepass was paralyzed, it couldn't move, leading Max to explain that despite Nosepass being a rock type and being good against electric Pokemon, that didn't mean that it was immune to paralysis. With Nosepass paralyzed, Ash told Pikachu to take its chance and use an Iron Tail, taking the time that it had on its side due to the paralysis to charge it up, and Pikachu was able to, officially finally mastering the Iron Tail, hitting Nosepass with a tougher Iron Tail than it had ever hit before, knocking Nosepass out and giving Ash the win, as the referee officially declared Ash the winner, as Nosepass collapsed to the ground, and Pikachu landed beside it. Roxanne was very shocked that she lost, as she stood in awe, and Ash congratulated Pikachu on the victory, as Pikachu ran off the battlefield into Ash's arms. May, the camera people, and Roxanne's former students who were workers at her gym were all shocked as well, though Brock and Max knew that Ash would win, and they proudly stated their prediction that was correct, as Max just stared at Ash and Pikachu, enamored by their skill. Ash and the gang then talked with Roxanne outside the gym, and Roxanne thanked Ash for the awesome battle, stating that Ash battled well, and she was very impressed with Ash and Pikachu's battle skills, having learned much herself, and adding that her students would learn a whole bunch from the footage that was recorded. Also thanking Ash for teaching her that despite her being a teacher, she didn't know everything, and even teachers could be taught lessons on strength. She then gave Ash his reward for beating her, his first home gym badge, the Stone Badge, which he very, very happily accepted, as he held the badge up and did his typical victory pose. The episode then ends with Ash and the gang saying goodbye to Roxanne, as they continued on with their journey, debating where to go now that Ash had finally won his first gym badge in Rustboro City.